Hello, everyone, and welcome to PJ's Bayou Grind, brought to you by PJ's Coffee of Pueblo. I'm Ben Cason from Wake Up Pueblo, here with three very special guests. First off, we got Garrett, the manager at PJ's Coffee here in Pueblo. Jared, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate you.
Of course. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. And then, obviously, Joe and Renee Prutch, the owners of PJ's Coffee of Pueblo, as well as Baskin-Robbins and many other things at Pueblo Prutch's Garage. Thank you guys again for being on. We appreciate you.
Hello, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
So if you want to hear more about Joe and Renee's story, we'll be talking a little bit more to Jared today. You can go check out our last episode of PJ's Bayou Grind, came out about a month ago. Be sure to check it out here on our Spotify and Apple podcasts. We talked about the whole experience of bringing PJ's Coffee back to Pueblo, what that was like. You don't want to miss that. So again, go check that out. If you haven't seen it, go check that out, then come right back here for this one. We've also got more podcasts coming out here, so keep an eye out for that. All right, let's go ahead and break right into it. So Jared, how long have you been a manager at PJ's Coffee?
So ever since February, so that's about 10 months now.
Yeah.
Almost 11. So
10 months, almost 11. And we were talking before, coming into February of 2020, March of 2020, things go crazy.
Right.
You've had a pretty wild first year as a manager. Tell me what that's been like.
Man, it's been so off and on. It's been hard to adjust back and forth to, reopening and then closing back down our lobby and things like that. And at first, I was so excited. I was talking to Joe and Renee when I first started about all these plans that I had for what I wanted to do for the store. And, we've still kind of gone through on a lot of those, but starting out, it was like right off the bat, it was like, boom, just close down the lobby.
Gotcha.
And that really took a big hit on us. I think it took a big hit on a lot of businesses, unfortunately. But, so that I think that lockdown lasted through May. Right? That was around May. And so when we reopened our lobby, it was like we started doubling, tripling business.
Really?
It was awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
From the year before, from months before, I think in the months of July and August, we over doubled our sales from the year before. So it was awesome, because I wasn't sure if people were going to be wanting to go out because of COVID.
Sure.
But we started marketing a little harder, getting people there, and it was awesome. It was awesome. All the new regulars that were coming in. We see these groups of veterans coming in, 3-4 times a week, and it's awesome to get to know them. And then, it was going really, really good. Business was staying just on the uphill. And then about a month ago, the lockdowns hit again, and, been kind of the same deal. It's
a good sign that y'all did some great things though whenever that first one ended.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So
it was
we're getting close to
awesome.
the end of this one, I think.
Yeah, it was super cool.
That's really good. So I asked Joe and Renee this last time they were on the podcast. I'm curious for your answer. What separates PJ's Coffee from any old Joe Schmo coffee shop that you can find?
So basically what I try to focus on, especially when training employees, retraining employees, whatever the case may be, is just giving those customers the best experience possible. Wherever you go, when you're a consumer, you want to be, having a good time when you go in. You don't want to be treated like garbage when you come in. Employees treating you like, oh, what can I get for you? It's the second they walk through the door, screaming at them, welcome in, guys. Stuff like that, scaring them almost. And it's just
scaring them almost.
Yeah,
I like it.
The second they walk in, you want to make them feel like they're welcome there, and that it's, for me, it's my home. I'm there 40 hours a week, sometimes more. So I want to let everyone else there know that it's their home too for the time being. And I think that's just kind of how coffee shops should be. It's just a place to chill out, drink some coffee, escape from the rest of the world, just because that's how I, do my life outside of my job. I just go to coffee shops, I chill. In Dallas, when I lived there, it was just like, I loved going to coffee shops that made me feel at home, and I could just sit there, and just do whatever for like an hour or two, whatever. And so I think that that's what really separates us apart, is the experience that we give customers, the welcoming atmosphere that we have. And they always see all of us having a good time, kind of like what you guys were talking about in your Baskin-Robbins podcast. We're all really like a family there. And so it's awesome. It's always been like that ever since we opened, even when there was 25 of us when we were starting, and we were all strangers. Maybe a couple of us knew each other, but it was like right off the bat. It was just like we were all family.
That's awesome.
I even 2 years ago, I didn't know one of our employees right now. His name is Taryn. And I never met him before. And ever since then, we've become great friends, and he's my absolute best friend, do
That's
everything
awesome.
together, and I think that just kind of speaks for itself for how our atmosphere is. So
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's throw it over to Joe and Renee. I mean, you hear him talking about he's been there since you guys opened up the store. Obviously, he left for a little bit, but then he came back. And it sounds like there's a real culture that's been built there. Why is it important to you that, these employees and, the people at PJ's build that work culture?
We try to bring our managers and anybody that works for us that culture of home feeling. And like Renee has mentioned before, we take these kids under our belt and we treat them like our own. And it's so special to see that and to give that back to the kids. It's really neat.
I want to add one thing with both our managers. They're 19 years old. That's young, and they're in big responsibility positions. I'm calling them several times a day. We're, running a business. We're doing this, doing that. And, they take it serious. They understand the importance of the businesses that they're running. And, it makes my heart melt, because to be that young and to have such a huge responsibility, they're not going to get that opportunity anywhere else.
Sure.
So both of them started just in regular positions. Jared was a barista, Kiana was a crew member, and they, quickly went to shift leaders and then from there to management because they earned it and they showed me how hard they were working and what they wanted to learn. So I'm blown away when I keep thinking about it. They're only 19. That's really young to be in these big responsible positions.
Yeah. And, we're talking about Kiana. Kiana's the manager over at Baskin Robbins. So if you want to hear her story, that's called the 31 Flavor Journey Show right here. You can check that out as well on Spotify. So that's Joe and Renee's. Yeah. I mean, for both of them, I actually didn't know they were 19 when they came in. Just by your demeanors and stuff, I would have guessed y'all were both older. So that's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Special.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing too, just kind of to go off of that, is that it takes a lot as an owner, I'm sure, to hand all that responsibility to a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And so I can never be thankful enough to them, and they know that, but just all the responsibility that I've been given and that they trusted me with that. And so I hope I've met or exceeded expectations in that area, but yeah, it's been awesome. It doesn't even feel like it's been like 19-year-old, like, oh, Jared, we're going to babysit you. They fully trusted me,
it's
Yeah. And that was huge. And it was awesome to be able to just take on that responsibility. Kind of scary at first, for sure. It took a lot of adjusting, but it's been awesome. So yeah.
Yeah. Can you kind of take me through that process, Jared, of what it was like, coming in there and, just being first level person and then working your way up and getting to know Joe and Renee more? What's that been like? How's that relationship flourished?
Yeah. So, like I said, I started when the store opened. So we had corporate from Louisiana up here. And originally, like I said, we had like 20, 25 people there. So we were doing training before we were open for about 2 weeks. And I believe it was one of the corporate ladies. She just pulled me aside. She was like, for just our training purposes, I'm going to act like you're a shift leader. And so I wasn't sure, I was like, I didn't know if they controlled that or Joe and Renee controlled that, but I just kind of embodied it. I was like, all right, well, if they're going to give me that, leader. Yeah, I was like, well, I'm a shift leader now. So, and then, I kind of forgot what the process was like, but I think it was very quickly after we opened that Joe and Renee and Vita, who was the manager at the time, told me that I'd been promoted. So that was awesome. And then, like I said, I worked. So we opened in September of 2018. Or I think our soft opening was the end of September of 2018.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then our grand opening was like the first or second week of October of 2018.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Yeah. And then, so like I said, when I graduated, it was June of 2019 when I moved away. And then moved back in February. And so I didn't really have a whole lot of interaction with Joe and Renee. Obviously a little bit every now and then. She texts me, I text her about things that were going on in the store when I was a shift leader.
Yeah.
But then I moved back. and Vita was still the manager at the time, like I said, and she was like, hey, you can still work here if you want to. I don't have a whole lot of shifts for you, but and then an assistant manager position popped up, and I was like, Vita, is this available for me to apply for? And she was like, heck yeah, go for it. And actually at the time when I moved back, I really needed to keep up with bills and stuff. And Joe and Renee, like they always do, they help their employees out. So I was working just maybe 1 or 2 shifts at PJ's, and then they were actually letting me help out at the garage door company.
Okay.
So I was almost getting 40 hours a week just between both of those. And that just kind of proves the kind of people they are. And that was the first real kind of time that we started to interact a lot more, get to know each other. And I think it's easy as an employee to be kind of like afraid of the higher ups. You know, it's like you don't want to disappoint them. I think that's kind of how I was at first. And it's like, they're people and they're awesome people at that. So, you know, it just, like you said, it flourished from there. You know, the communication, like Renee said, she's calling me 3-4 times a day, texting me throughout the day. I'm texting her. And I'm always going by Prutch's, dropping things off, picking things up. And so it's been awesome. They're great people. You know them well. They're awesome. Great at podcasting.
That's a fact.
But overall, yeah, just great owners. But I don't even necessarily think of them as that. They're just great people. Love being around them. So yeah, it's just been great since I started being manager.
So for Joe and Renee, what did you see in Jared that made you want to invest in him that early and like give him that spot early and, you know, let him work at the garage shop? Like what did you see in him?
Right. You know what we saw in Jared was leadership. And he wanted to learn, eager to grow, wasn't afraid to whatever I gave him. So at the garage door company, we were switching over to a new system for all of our products, every nut, bolt, garage doors, you name it, all of our customers. So I had him doing data entry, very tedious, very boring, but very important because I couldn't have him make a mistake. Once he entered doors, I was having him putting prices in and all this stuff. And so it took him weeks and hours after hours. I'd actually go in there and say, Jared, take a break. I'm like, I'm really not that bad. You could take a break. Because, you know, that was a lot of work, but he accomplished it. And, you know, didn't complain, didn't question why. He was just like, what else you need me to do? You know, I'm grateful for these hours, whatever. So, and we've done that with several of our employees. I don't know how many, a handful that has worked at the garage door company. They've worked at Baskin-Robbins, and they've worked at PJ's. Yeah. So Taryn, for example, he's one of the employees that has worked at all 3 locations. So if they need more hours, they need more experience, whatever, you know, we're willing to do that. But I would say with Jared, it definitely was his willingness to learn, his leadership, and, you know, just taking on any responsibility and job and accomplishing it.
You know, and I would just have to add in on that is his leadership. You know, I'm a kind of a tough guy, a hard guy. I just like things done right, and I guess that's the best way to put it. And to see that from Jared coming across that he was willing to put his nose to the grind and do a good job. And show his leadership, and that's hard to do. It really is hard to do. But when that leadership shows up on a daily basis, when he's around his peers and his employers, shows a great deal. And we're proud of that, and we're proud of Jared of doing so.
That's awesome, Jared. What skills do you think that you're picking up or have picked up in your time working with PJs and the Prutches?
Well, definitely, I think the most skills I've picked up is from management, for sure. But I would say definitely learning how to separate, because like I said, I worked there before and I was just a shift leader. And I was just kind of friends with everybody. I think the biggest thing that I had to realize when I first got the job, I was like, okay, these are all my friends, but I'm now their boss. So I have to learn how to separate that when it comes to work. And that was really difficult to do. And there was some backlash from it. at the beginning, but people got used to it. And it's really become a great environment since then. And I think obviously time management is huge when you're in management as well. But yeah, just learning how to just hand out tasks. And I think that sounds like really silly thing to say. But it's hard to tell people what to do. It's really hard to tell people what to do. It's hard to look someone in the eye and tell them, hey, go do this. Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why don't I just go do that, But, you got more things on your plate as a manager for sure. But just learn how to communicate with your employees clearly, directly, allow room for them to be creative with whatever they're doing. Obviously drinks, there's a very set way to do it, but giving them projects around the store, whatever the case is. But just being clear and direct. So I think communication and like I said, breaking that friend to employee kind of relationship is probably the two biggest things I've had to learn since I took over. So yeah, I definitely learned a lot.
I think, a lot of the perception of it's like jobs like this fast food, or doing coffee or doing ice cream is that these kind of jobs are like dead end jobs. I'm sure people would say that.
Right.
Obviously talking to you and talking to Kiana before, it doesn't seem like that's your experience. If someone was to come to you and say, oh, you work at PJ's, that must be a dead end job, what would you say to them?
I mean, yeah, like Joe and Renee were saying in the other podcasts, there's more advancement than just management. And I know that they're the kind of people that would, even give me an opportunity to, I don't know, lead in any other way in their different companies, whatever the case may be, their personal assistant. I don't even know, but I know that they're the kind of people that would do that. And then on the other hand, there's the corporate level, and I know that on the PJ side of things, they really only hire from the inside from what I've seen. All these people that are, marketing directors for all of PJ's Coffee. Yeah. They started out as a barista. And it seems like it's kind of like that across the board.
That's awesome.
And so there's advancement anywhere, but I think if, people say that's a dead end job, if they got the job and say they said that, well, it's going to end there for them anyways, because they had that in their mind, and so, and you never know what opportunities may arise. And I think that's like one thing that I've applied to my life, just in every aspect, is just, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Even if you are a manager at PJ's Coffee, Baskin Robbins, McDonald's, maybe someone's going to come in there and be like, hey, I've seen you every day and they run this huge company and they're like, I want you to come work for me and you'll be making 6 figures. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you never know what kind of opportunities may arise. And so I think that's just what I've always had in my head.
Sure.
Is just be confident in what you do and don't always be searching for the next step. Enjoy where you're at. So because things will come to you and, you just got to take life one step at a time. So, if that's how people want to look at it, then that's how they want to look at it. But, then they don't have to have that job. I'll take it. I'll take it. So
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, Jared. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
of course,
it. Bro. And yeah, I mean, obviously credit over there to Joe and Renee creating a atmosphere to where the employees think like that. Obviously Kiana as well as Jared now, but that takes a special kind of ownership. So credit to you guys. And you can just tell by the people you've chosen as managers. I only talked to each of them for 20 minutes, but you can just tell high quality individuals. So well done on that.
Pretty good stuff. Yep. Pretty good stuff.
Pretty good stuff.
We're really proud. Absolutely.
It's good. And you can also tell with them talking to them. You mentioned in the Baskin Robbins one, kind of like a proud parent was what you mentioned, kind of talking about Kiana getting a car. Like you can see that it feels like that kind of relationship with you and them just sitting here with you. So
we'll ask Jared now what kind of car he has.
Did you get a new car as well?
I did just get a new car.
Upgraded.
There we go.
He's
let's
upgraded.
hear about your car.
Yeah, I just bought a Mustang about a month ago.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Yeah, pretty happy with that one.
And he has his own apartment now.
I do, yeah.
There we go. Making moves.
Exactly. So everyone that says it's a dead end job, look where I'm at. I promise you, you can live with it. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Jared, and thank you, Joe and Renee.
Thank you,
So
Ben.
where's
Thanks,
PJ's in Pueblo? Where can someone go to PJ's to get their coffee?
So it's going to be, if you see the big old liquor store right there, Big Bear, it's hard to miss.
P West, yeah.
Right next to it, parking lot's going to be Baskin Robbins and PJ's Coffee off of Hailey Lane in Pueblo West. So,
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Be sure to go check out PJ's Coffee, and be sure to check out the rest of our podcast here, PJ's Bayou Grind. We did one last time with Joe and Renee talking about their experience bringing New Orleans coffee into Pueblo. You don't want to miss that. So if you listen to this one and you're like, wow, these people are awesome, which they are, go check that out, please. As well as check out the 31 Flavor Journey. That's our kind of sister podcast for Baskin Robbins, which is also owned by Joe and Renee. You can find out a little bit more about Kiana Garnier, who is the manager over there at that one. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been PJ's Bayou Grind. Be sure to check us out every couple weeks for new podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.